Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 30 Types of Social Movement. Today we start our lecture with topic New Movements. Social characteristics of new social movement and their subtypes. New social movements (NSMs) are reflected of a new representation of society characterized by post-capitalism, post-industrialism and post-materialism. In the 1960s and 70s, European and American societies gave rise to large-scale movements around issues and questions which were non-materialistic in nature. These movements generally raised questions which were basically cultural and humanistic. Unlike the region or locality bound old types of social movements, the new movements espouses the goals, objectives, and values of universalistic application. Their objectives are to defend the essence of the mankind and protect the conditions on which human life depends on. The ideological discourse of the new movements center around the question of identity, human dignity, peace, and social justice. There has been a radical shift from the discussion on capitalism, class exploitation, class revolution, etc., to the questions of the expanding nature of state power and the shrinking space of the citizen and the civil society. In these new moments, at the stakes are the problems of individual freedom, personal liberty, identity, and social equality. These mobilizations did not carry with them the questions of employment, wage, bonus, and economic security as it used to be in the industrial sector, or the question of land and share in land produce as one used to notice in the cases of peasant movement in the countryside. The NSMs can be divided into two subtypes. The ethos of NSMs germinated in India during the freedom struggle movement back in 1920s and 1930s or even earlier. The emphasis on Swadeshi or indigenous village handicraft, self-help, native small-scale industries and boycott of foreign goods as a weapon to defend the self-identity and to fight against the British colonialism in India was a part of emancipatory ideology of the Indian National Congress as far back as 1906 to 10. The appearance of Mahatma Gandhi on the scene was an epochal event in the long history of India. Mahatma's insistence on ahimsa, non-violence, satyagraha, insistence on truth, civil disobedience, non-cooperation, local self-government, and the call for the restoration of the village panchayat and on the spinning wheel and khadi, charkha, and the homespun cloth for winning Swaraj mean independence, self-reliance, and social reconstruction of the Indian society was indeed one of the most successful post-industrialist and post-modernist expression of new social movement in the human history. The Bhudan, Gramdan and Sarvodaya movement are the example par excellence of the new social movement in India. The contemporary NSMEs mirror the image of the new society in the process of its self-making. These movements project a new self-consciousness among the individuals and communities about not only their culture and society but also about their future. And in this, the NSMEs can be treated as the reflection of the cultural revolt of the contemporary individual against the exercise of increasing surveillance and control of the state over the civil society on the one hand, and on the other hand growing realization and self-confidence of the civil society that it ought not to place the destiny and future of the mankind in the hands of the state alone. It must remain vigilant against the lack of wisdom of state and political system, and that society has an agency and that it can alter the path of its movements and transformation. The NSMEs are divided in inclusivist type of movement and exclusivist type of movement. For the detailed reference, discussion and analysis of theme of this type of movement we discuss below. The first is inclusivist new movements. The inclusivist movements actively articulate generally universalized, non-violent and mostly pacifist, pan-humanistic, homophilic values. In India, the NSME of inclusivist type found its early expression in the Bhudan, Gramdan and Sarvodaya movements. In the contemporary setting, the manifestations of inclusivist movements are seen in the form of mobilization in the defense of ecology and environment. These movements also find their manifestations in the collective struggles for identity, equality, personal dignity, and social justice. The most of the collective protest and mobilization of women and Dalit in India belong to this type of inclusivist movements. Farmers movements fighting the state for fair price of their agricultural produce, cheaper rate of the cost of the chemical manure and more reasonable cost of electrical power deal also belong to this type of movement. What is important to note is that these movements are non-political and they do not question the legitimacy of the state. With some degree of the variation, some of the NSMEs aim at connecting the centers of power with the grassroots localities. As we have suggested earlier, NSMEs are mostly non-violent in their expressions. However, there can be exceptions. Dalit struggles and mobilizations, mainly an identity-oriented collective protest, some time may give expression to caste violence movement related to peace, disarmament, human rights and personal liberty are inclusivist type of NSMEs. Most of the NSMEs struggle for social reconstruction of society, ensure equality and social justice for all. They also aim at resolving the social structure anomalies of society, such as discrimination of human on the basis of caste, community, region and race. These movements are non-radical, non-separatist and non-atomist. Inclusivist types of the movement highlight the internal and external structural tension of the contemporary society, now loudly defined by market, technology, communication, and democratic upsurge at the global level. The NSMEs symbolize cultural pluralism, polymorphy of new types of social conflicts, and increasing emphasis on the democratization of all aspects of society. Now, the second type is the exclusivist movements. The exclusivist movements generally develop the concept of other and hold them responsible for their miseries. These movements, instead of integrating the members of the community in socially cohesive whole, split the population in we and they. The conception of the outsiders is one of the dominant characterizing element of exclusivist type of movement. In India, the exclusivist type of NSMEs find their manifestation in the narrowly defined mobilization of subnationalism, community divides, and ethnic demands. The son of the soul paradigm of the subnationalist and semi-autonomist movements belong to exclusivist type of movement. The exclusivist movements in many cases articulate demand for social spatial enclave with some degree of socio-economic and political autonomy. Most of the exclusivist movements generally give a call to the community to rise in defense of their social, economic, and cultural identity. The mobilizing slogan is that the purity and the symbol of their cultural essence and heritage are in danger, requires sacrifice in terms of money, efforts, and struggles. The nearest example of the exclusivist movement are the sub-nationalist mobilization in the state of Assam with the slogan that Assam is for the Assamese. In the recent past, the call for Gorkhaland and Uttarakhand in the North India illustrate the characters of exclusivist movement. Further, the regionalist movement in the mainly tribal population of state of Bihar in the near past for Jharkhand state, essentially because it has dominantly tribal character mentioned above in the section on old social movements, show the element of exclusivist NSME. The radical and ultra-radical exclusivist movement sometimes tend to assume fundamentalist character. The violent struggle for the homeland in Sri Lanka and the fundamentalist struggle with religious orientation being witnessed in some parts of the West Asia are wholly in contrast to the homophilic pan-humanistic with the universalized goals and values of the inclusivist movements. However, it must be noted that whether NSMEs are inclusivist or exclusivist, they are non-class, non-materialistic, and mostly non-political movement. In the light of the above discussion, we are going to identify some of the ideal typical characteristics of the NSMEs in our next lecture. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.